Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Book 3 of The Wheel of Time, The Dragon Reborn. Now, if you don't know my opinion so far, the first book I was like lukewarm on. I liked the quest aspects of this book, but the climax and some parts of the middle were a bit down for me, and some of the characters were kind of a wet blanket. Similar opinions to book 2, although it steps it up just a little bit more. But this book, The Dragon Reborn, I really like this book. I really had a great time reading The Dragon Reborn. This book does exactly what I wanted it to. After finishing book 2, I wanted more focus on characterization, more smaller moments with these characters, stuff to make me really fall in love with them. And I also wanted just a breather book, not too much focus on the whole quests aspect of it and, Trollocs and Midrals just chasing you all the time. Have kind of a breather book. And this book kind of does that. It's still, don't get me wrong, it's still quite an eventful book. But it does exactly what I want in almost every way. And I have very little complaints about it, which I'm actually surprised about. What I want to say is, I really like The Dragon Reborn. It was right up my alley. Do I want to give a spoiler-free? Overall, I think I want to cut down my spoiler-free opinions on this book, if I'm being honest with you. I'll always give my opinions in the beginning, but I'm going to make it much shorter. Overall, I enjoyed The Dragon Reborn. This was a solid entry. So to start off, to set the scene, obviously Dragon Reborn, Gwen, Nynaeve, and Matt and Elaine have been split off from the group. They're going to the White Tower. Matt needs to be healed because he still has a dagger with him, because like the dunce that he is, he stole it from some evil demonic blah 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 blah. In the beginning, for the first 100 pages, we are completely in the perspective of Perrin. And that's one thing I want to get across in this book. Despite being called the Dragon Reborn, the Dragon Reborn Randall Fall is barely in this book. Like, barely in this book. And for me, that's such a bold creative choice to just completely not neglect, but to cut out your main protagonist in a book that is literally named after him. And it works. Like, it's such a bold creative choice, but it works so well. And what I loved about this is that it creates an opportunity to get to know the other characters. And that's the best thing this book did. That's the best thing the series could have done at this point in the series, because now I am far more invested in these other characters than I ever was before. Now let's talk about Perrin. The first 100 pages, that's mostly just in Perrin's perspective. And he's with Rand and Moiraine and Lan. And through his perspective, we see Rand. For most of this book, we see Rand through other people's perspective. And that's what I love. At this point, the madness is slightly taking over him. He's using more of the power. And by doing this, you distance the reader from Randall Fall at this point, because at this point, he's not the same person he used to be. He's going slightly crazy. And once again, that's such a bold creative choice that I love. I love that Jordan did that. And Perrin, in this book, once again, continues to be my favourite of the three boys. What I loved about Perrin in this book was the small moments. And his story in this book is all about the small moments. It doesn't lead to anything too climactic or too cathartic. So, for example, moments like when they visit this village, and there's a man who has a similar affliction to him, who constantly keeps dreaming about wolves and walking into wolves, and he's kind of gone a bit crazy. And he's been caged up by his brother. And even though Moiraine can't heal him, out of a fit of mercy, he frees him. He says he's going to be miserable here in this cage. And so out of humility, and of course Perrin himself understands this man on a deeper level because he has a similar affliction, he lets him go. That was a really touching moment that I really liked. And it's a similar moment to when he frees that Aiel prisoner. I also love that moment. Like, Perrin continues to be a very interesting character for me, and it's such a human moment because finally we're getting moments where we get to see these characters for who they are. Even when his new love interest Fail is introduced. I was like, oh, love interest. But they seem to be taking things slow. It's not too overbearing. It's not like a Lan and Nynaeve thing where it just happens insta love. It's like this love hate thing that happens. I liked it. I thought it was done quite well. His story was subtle, but I liked it. Now, for most of this book, we get a Gwen's perspective again. Of course, the Gwen and Nynaeve were like my favorite storyline in the previous book, so I was excited to see what they have here. It's a lot of the same, but that's a good thing. We get a Gwen's test, like Nynaeve's test in this book. Also, amazing moment. I love that. I love seeing these alternate timelines, these just testing these characters, not physically but emotionally. I love it. I love it. The Aes Sedai culture. It's just so rich, and there's still so much to explore. We get introduced to this place called Tehran Riod. I hope I'm saying it correctly. This place of dreams. Gwen is apparently becoming this person called a dreamer, and there's a lot of exploration of the magic in this book, specifically that aspect of it. Once again, just really intriguing, amazing stuff being here. The magic, world building, culture, once again, beautiful. Gwen is a little bit more not hesitant, but she went through a lot of shit in book 2 with the Sinshan people, so she doesn't want to be taken prisoner again when these white cloaks are confronting them. And when they're with the Varen Sedai in the beginning of the book, she straight up just earth bends them like tough Beifong, because she's like, I'm not being taken prisoner again. That's great. It shows that what the events of book 2 have had a profound effect on her. It's changed her as a person, makes her more paranoid, and she's constantly in fear and trauma of being taken prisoner again. And it fundamentally changed that character, and we're seeing a lot of growth there. Also, there's kind of like this storyline where there are these dark friends within the White Tower, and the Amyrlin Sea can only trust Gwen and Nynaeve for specific reasons, and that's awesome. I love it when there's this organization and there's like these secret, kind of like Hydra, dark friends, etc. invaded, and they don't know who's who's a good person, who's not. I love storylines like that, and that brings me to my next point. The Amyrlin Sea might currently be my favorite character. I love the Amyrlin Sea. She is awesome. She's so amazing. Now I have a term I coined called POV bias. When it comes to my favorite characters, I tend to like characters who have their own POV chapters, because simply we get a deeper deeper insight into these characters, right? The Amyrlin Sea is one of the few characters, along with Moiraine, who doesn't get much POV chapters, yet through other people's perspectives, she's such a fascinating character. I like how she's kind of a Machiavellian, like Moiraine, but there's a vulnerability to her as well. The Amyrlin Sea, she really impressed me in this book. I really love the Amyrlin Sea. Overall, Gwen and Nynaeve's storyline doesn't really necessarily lead to anything too cathartic. What their storyline does explore in terms of giving insight to the Amyrlin Sea, exploring Aes Sedai culture, and the whole Dark Friends plotline was still very engaging, and I liked what Jordan did there, even though it doesn't lead to anything too climactic, which I don't mind. Also, with Gwen and Nynaeve's storyline, it brings me to one of my complaints about this book. The repetition. These characters are constantly being kidnapped or being taken prisoner all the time. It happened with the Sinshan. For Gwen, it happened with the White Cloaks in book 1. It happened with the Sinshan in book 2. It happened with that random people. Then they got saved by the Aiel. Also, the Aiel are introduced in here. That's really cool. We don't get too much of their culture. We get that in the next book. But the Aiel are awesome. They're like these super badass, freaking Naruto-esque people doing taijutsu. Oh my god. These people are insane. And they're awesome. And then she gets kidnapped again in this book by freaking dark friends, Aes Sedai, the Black Aja. I'm like, why are these girls being kidnapped? Give them a break. Why are they being kidnapped all the time? We're 3 books in, and Gwen's been kidnapped 4 times. Leave the girl alone. Also, about repetition, there are so many fucking pubs and inns. Why are there so many pubs and inns? I live in London. Look how many pubs and inns are in London. I shit you not. I'm pretty sure there are more pubs and inns in whatever the land is called in the Wheel of Time. Like, why are there so many pubs and inns? I don't need to know where these characters sleep. I don't need to know where they shit or eat or take a break. I don't need to know. Just skip to the next day. Or say they made camp. Why do they need to have luxury sleeping in an inn? It's not like Frodo and Sam were traveling to Mordor and they're like, oh, we can't go on this journey. There ain't no pubs and inns on this map over here. How are we supposed to get to Mordor? There's no pubs and inns for us to stay in. Like, oh my god. The pubs and the inns. There's so many names of the pubs and the inns. It's been melting in my mind. The biggest surprise for me in this book, surprisingly, is Matt Corson. If you don't know, my opinions on the first two books, I hated this guy. He was my least favorite character. I thought he was a dunce. I thought he was just a burden on everyone else. And you know what? He's still kind of a dunce. But I like him. Also, his exorcism kind of thing with the Aes Sedai. Another great moment. But Matt Corton finally gets a POV. And we finally get what Matt Corton is. He's this tricksty, kind of prankster, young gambler-esque character. He has a potty mouth and constantly thinks about women. He also likes to believe that he's this selfish person, but deep down inside, the hero in there. It's a good setup. It's a setup we've seen before. I'm intrigued to see where his story takes. I'm intrigued to see his development. Matt surprised me in this book. I'm not gonna lie. He's also a great fighter. That is seen with Galad and Gwen. Also, with Matt, I think Matt single-handedly has my favorite ability / power so far, and that's the luck. It's not so like super powerful like the Aes Sedai's power. It's more subtle, but I really like how it's used. Obviously, he's a gambler, and he's noticed that he's winning a lot of the pots. He has some really amazing luck, and I think it's part of his power. I'm pretty sure it's a part of his power. If that's the case, that's my single favorite power, because that is so cool. And I cannot wait to see it till it is explored more. I just want to see more of the luck. The luck is cool. The luck is awesome. It helps me like Matt a bit more. Also, I really liked Matt and Tom's kind of dynamic duo thing they got going on there. I wish we could have got more chapters with their dynamic duo. But I liked it. I liked seeing really down in the dumps, Big Lebowski, Tom Marilyn, and then Matt is kind of the guy to pick him up on his feet. And he's like, yo, we need to deliver this letter to Morgase on behalf of Elaine. And yeah, Matt surprised me. There were those heroic moments there, moments where I'm like, oh, you're still kind of a dunce, but hey, I get you now. So I was impressed. I did not expect to have this big of a turnaround for Matt Corton. Remember, he was my least favorite character at one point. Now I actually kind of like the guy. Who would have guessed? And this is what I mean. The Dragon Reborn, it does some great things with the side characters. Once you kind of put Rand out of the picture, we get more time with the other characters. Now I'm invested. I'm invested in them. However, the climaxes are still an issue. Not too bad. This one made a bit more sense. This final battle between Rand, not final battle, but this battle between Rand and Balzwan made a bit more sense because he's there to retrieve Kalimdor, this really powerful Angrial's sword. The final climax made a bit more sense. I thought it had a little bit better of a build-up than the previous two. Still doesn't jive well with me. I'm not a fan of Rand battling the Dark One in every book. I hope that's not the case. I know there's a twist, maybe Balzamon was Ishmael. Once again, I hope that the next book doesn't just have Rand burning up a Forsaken or battling a Dark Lord or whatever. I don't need an end battle Rand battling or sword fighting some kind of guy at the end of every book. I just don't want that. That'll add into the repetition, which is an issue with this book. Overall, characters impressed me. I'm invested in these characters. I finally get them. Some great moments. Gwen's test, Matt Corton's exorcism. Really great moments. Also, more focus on side characters. And Rand, despite being in this book the least amount of time, is the most interesting I've seen Rand. It's the most interesting Rand we've got. Although, yes, once again, we do have the whole repetition issue. There's a lot of repetition in terms of, the story beats here and the inns. Oh my god, the pubs and inns. Other than that, I really enjoyed this book. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. I didn't expect to enjoy this book this much, but I enjoyed it. I would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. That's a whole 1.5 above the Great Hunt. That's a big jump. I don't do jumps like that normally. But the Dragon Reborn impressed me. It really impressed me. I filmed 3 reviews back to back. My throat hurts. And I need to get back to reading the 4th book, Shadows Rising. I think a review for that will probably come a little later than you'd expect because, you know, I'm able to get these ones out so quickly because I filmed them back to back. But anyway, tell me guys in the comment section below your opinions. You can discuss below. If you have read the whole of the Wheel of Time, please use spoiler-free comments down below because I'm going through the series for the first time and I'm sure a lot of people are as well. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.